want to talk about, well, I really want to engage you guys, so I want you guys to participate as well. Actually, no. Knowing me, I'm just going to like call on people. But I want to talk about, do you think that racism is like possible to like completely stop? And I can only talk from like my perspective, like being mixed racial in a segregated society, I would say. So I would say, is first off, is there anybody who's like mixed race? Anybody in here like you can't claim yourself to be one specific race, like you can't claim yourself to be white, you can't claim yourself to be Hispanic, or when you're in the you know those boxes that they give us, like when you first enter the school,
Yeah.
they say, "What are you? Are you a other? Are you a Caucasian?" You'll choose one. So you're an other as well, right?
I don't know what
I
it
hate
is.
those boxes. I wish we lived in a society where you didn't have to categorize yourself based on a box. And
That's
the
everywhere.
more I did research on the entire box thing, the reason why universities and stuff do the boxes is because it's based on your financial aid and scholarships. It's already proven that if you're African American, you're able to receive more money than you are for a Caucasian person. And then if you're other, receive less. So it's like the society already labeled us from the very beginning. But as far as, I think, for me, I believe that racism isn't taught. I feel like racism is taught. I don't believe that racism is instilled with us because it's already been proven that if you take a whole bunch of kids from different ethnicities, like babies, they don't segregate each other. They all play with each other, do whatever you can. If you took like a white baby, a black baby, an Asian baby, a Hispanic baby, and stuck them on the floor, they'll all interact perfectly fine. But it's already proven that in elementary school, that's when segregation starts really becoming evident. And that's because it's how it's taught. And I would say for me, going to elementary school, middle school, and I would say until my senior year was really tough because I went to 6 different high schools, 4 middle schools, and 2 elementary. So I went to one ELS elementary school to learn English in Quincy. At the time, it was Beechwood Knoll, but there are 2 Beechwood Knolls now. There's one in Wollaston area. That's the newer one, the nice one. And then the old one was the English-speaking school by Squantum near the Dunkin' Donuts. So I went over there, and I learned English, and I had rocks thrown at me. I was bullied because I was different. At the time, I would say 90, 98, 99. Quincy, North Quincy was all Chinese. It was all Chinese area. If you weren't Chinese, you wouldn't live there. So actually, like North Quincy area was really, really strong in racism. So when we moved in, because my mom came over from a different country, it if they saw us, we were just like a complete disrespect to the whole culture. Like because my mom was already disowned from her family for having kids with a white man. So it's like that happened, and my dad was disregarded by his family for that. So they already hated their life, kind of regretted the decision of having 2 mixed racial kids because now they're disowned from their family.
Can
So,
I have one break for you?
yeah. Oh yeah. So my mom, she's from Korea, but she's actually half black, half Korean. So she was already kind of disregarded. So she lived in Korea until she was 20, and then she moved to the U.S. and then had me a year later. So she was so new. And then my dad, same thing. He was from Ireland, and him and his family immigrated to Dorchester. And at the time in the 80s, Dorchester was all Irish. So Boston was very, if anybody's from Boston, very segregated city. Southie, all Italian. Dorchester was straight up Irish. Roxbury was all black. Hispanics hung around in Fields Corner area. Now Fields Corner is all Vietnamese. But it was Fields Corner area, and
I
Quincy
hate
was all
Fields Corner.
Chinese. So if the Quincy people came to Dorchester, there will be a fight. Dorchester people go to Roxbury, there was a fight. And Boston saw this happen, so what happened was they did the busing. You guys know about busing, right?
Yes.
Where they randomly just took kids from Roxbury, stuck them in Dorchester, and that didn't go well. Like people were killing each other and stuff. So I don't think living in Boston was such a good idea at the time when I did, but I did that. And then I would say around 15, 16 when I was in high school. Wait, 15, 16 in high school, right? Freshman, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my freshman year of high school, I think that was when the age where I'm trying to start to identify myself and find out who I really am. So I started hanging out. So I hung out with like blacks, and even for the black people, they kind of disregarded me. They never really accepted me for 100%. They're like, oh, you act too white, or oh, you act this way. So I hung out with the white people, and the white people, you act too black. And I hung out with the Asian people, like, you act too white. So I'm just like, all right, So it's just like I would get frustrated. I wanted to identify myself with that one carrier. I realized that since I went to 6 different high schools, there were other new kids like me. So I thought maybe I could gravitate towards the new kids. Like, oh, are you new too? And they're like, yeah. But with the new kids, what they did was instantly they would walk into a classroom and they would look at all the people, and whatever ethnicity they fit in, they would sit behind them. So it was like there would be, I was in Glendale High School, which is mostly Armenians and Asians. So I was a new kid, and there was another kid named Glenn who was a new kid, and he was Vietnamese. We walk into the room, and he looks, and then he just goes and sits behind the Asians. And then me, I did something different and sat behind the Armenians, and when I sat behind them, they were kind of mad, you know? They were just like, why are you sitting over here? You don't belong with us. And I was just so confused. It's like I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where I belonged exactly because, so I was going through a lot of self-identity issues, like where do I belong? Like, do I hang out with these people or do I hang with that people? Well, it didn't help when I had a father who will call me saying, I need you to have more white friends. Then I have a mom who called me and is like, I need you to have this. When I started dating, I specifically dated a Hispanic person to see how my parents would react, and they were furious. They're like, how could you? You're supposed to marry a white person, my dad said. And then my mom said, how could you? You're supposed to marry this kind of person. And then I would argue with my mom. I'm like, Mom, I understand that you want me to be with a Korean person for the sake of the family, but you can't disregard your other half. You're half black. And she would say, but I know nothing about it. My father left when I was young. Which is true because my mom was created because during the Korean War, a whole bunch of Americans flew over, and my grandmother had a little fun. So, yeah, that happened. So my mom never met her actual biological father. So she was raised basically as a full Korean woman. So she's very complicated. But so as are today, right now, I came to the realization that I don't think racism is possible to completely stop just because of the little things we see, like the little boxes or like even specific jobs you can't get, you know, specific races. Like if you go into a Chinese restaurant, you don't see African Americans being servers. You see Chinese people as servers. But if you go into the kitchen,
I seen one white person, but
but if you go into the kitchen, you see Hispanics. I've worked at plenty of Asian restaurants such as like Bukyung, Kachu Tofu House, P.F. Chang, Shabu, and a whole bunch of stuff. The whole kitchen staff is Hispanic, but they refuse to let them as servers. And I even asked that. I was like, oh, how come we can't have, when I worked at Bukyung, I was like, how come we can't have Jocelyn have as a server? She's pretty, she's great, she's outgoing, and she can speak the language. And they're like, you can't have that. If you have that, nobody's going to want to come here. And I was like, wait, nobody's going to want to come here because we have one Hispanic server? They're like, yeah, that destroys the whole restaurant. If people come in and they see a Hispanic serving Korean food, they're going to think that our Korean food isn't authentic. They're going to think that our food is tilted or our food isn't good. And then I said right then and there, that makes no sense because we have Hispanic cooks cooking our stuff. They're like, that's different. They don't see them. And I was just like, oh, okay. So racism in the workspace. So it's like, I feel like as the day and age goes, day by day by day by day, I feel like it's actually getting worse, that they're like adding more things. Like, in the 60s and 50s, they weren't doing the censuses all the time about like what race and what ethnicity you are. Now it's like anything you apply for. If I had to count how many times I had to check that box under other, it's ridiculous. It's almost with everything. Doctor's appointment, and put your ethnicity and your race on there. It's like I'm tired of just determining myself by a checkbox, by a label. Like, why can't I just determine myself as a human being? But I feel like everybody can't have that same kind of mentality because we were brought up with a specific race. I feel like if I was 100% Caucasian, I wouldn't think the way that I thought now because I'm on